So now this goes over to the potato cellar. That's where that door with the exit sign is. The door straight across from it is the dining room. You'll see that when we go over there. But right now we're going to go into the kitchen. The kitchen is right here. Again, directly above us right now is the viewing room is over there, but over here is the priest dining room. So those doors that you see right over there are the dumbwaiters. That's how they would serve the priest up to their dining areas upstairs. So, and that's what this is. Let's see here. There we go. So yeah, there's a pulley system that's been disabled, but it goes up to the priest dining room through here. So that's how they would serve the meals. Through that dumbwaiter. So here's the meat locker that I referred to. I did have a camera up here at one time. They put it back, I don't know. But this is into the meat locker. So once they butchered the meat, it would hang in this section and age a little while. And then they would finish cutting it into portions, whatever they were going to use it for, and then store it back into the freezers in the back there. Very cold in here. Very, very cold. So you can see the freezer. This is the slaughter room. So the camera that you guys see is right there. And you'll see it looking down this direction here. So we'll go ahead and go down that section. You keep wondering, well, wait a minute, the door's over there. How do you keep showing up over here? Because it loops all the way around the meat locker. And we'll take that tour now. So this is the electrical plant panel. This is the updated version. They revamped this about 7 years ago or so. And I'm really impressed, because I would think the electromagnetic field in this area with this much electricity would be off the charts. And really, you got to get right next to it, even with a K2 meter, which goes off at anything. You have to almost stand next to it, because it's been shielded so well that the electromagnetic field doesn't flood the area. So that's the water main. Anything happens, that's where the water has to be shut off. To the entire building is right through that. Okay. This is the original electrical room. I've got photographs of it. It's kind of Frankenstein-y looking inside, great big transformers and witches' hats with coiled wires, and it's crazy in there. They finally put a padlock on there because it is high voltage. And there's literally a half an inch or better of dust that's accumulated on top of things. Dust is very, very flammable, actually, and they're afraid that the least little bit of spark would ignite the dust, and the dust inadvertently being with the power, it would explode. So they locked it up for a number of reasons. So I kept telling you about the canned good area and where they stored all the canned goods. This is it. This is as throughout the summer, as they would harvest the fruits and vegetables, the nuns would then start the canning process for the winter, and they would can all the stuff that they consumed and then store it on the shelves down here. So this would have been jam-packed with all their vegetables, and anything that you can imagine that would be canned would be stored in this room here. It's pretty massive. There's a lot of space for storage. This back here, it was locked. I kind of suspect that maybe that was where they kept the wine. Who knows? I'm just guessing. But this is how I end up coming in from the other direction, because it makes a full circle. So we're back at the meat locker. So the door you see right here, that's actually an elevator up to the ground level. and they would actually bring the cows down and then walk them into this room. There was a big drain right there, and they would actually slaughter the cow right here. The blood would drain down into the drain there, and then they'd go ahead and use this room to butcher them up. From there, then, like I say, they would hang them in this first part of the locker room here and let it age a little bit, and then they would go ahead and make their cuts and ultimately freeze it. The monastery was 100% self-reliant for their food and stuff like that. So they grew their own vegetables, they grew their own fruits, they farmed all the land, and they raised their own poultry, cows, whatever that they consumed as meat. They raised it all right here on the abbey, and then they would ultimately slaughter it here, and it would end up in the freezer there. Now we come down this hallway here. This goes to the monks' chapel area. A lot of fun stories here in the chapel area. Put a lot of light here. So this is the altar to the monks' chapel area. This was all they do their worship, daily worshiping, and practice speaking from the pulpit and stuff down here. A lot of interesting stories in this area here. You got all the old antiquated electronics back here in the corner. Back in the day when they were switching over, and I tell the story often about Patty and Patty Joe answering telephones and taking care of clerical type stuff and worked the office area. So they were switching all the phones and whatnot. And the old phone, you know, was the old, somebody would get a phone call, and whoever was at basically the switchboard, the main office or whatever, she had a phone with like 20 lights on it, and the light would light up where the call was coming in, and then each one of the people who had an office, she could transfer their call from there by pushing a button on the phone to transfer the call. Well, she kept getting a phone call. It started out, ring, ring, the phone would ring. Hello, this is the Abbey, how can I help you? You wouldn't hear anything, actually. And so she'd hang up, and just about 2-3 minutes later, you hear, ring, ring. Hello, this is the Abbey, how can I help you? And nobody would say anything. And so this happened several times more. And finally, she realized that when the phone was ringing, the light down in the basement would come on from a phone that was down here in the basement somewhere. Well, she knew that they just switched all the phones over and that there was no phones down here in the basement. So that was a little bit odd. That was Patty. Patty went to Patty Joe and said, hey, look, I keep getting these weird phone calls, and it comes from the basement. Well, there aren't any phones down in the basement. I know that. You want to go check and see what it's about? Sure, let's go on down there. So they come down. They come down the stairwell over there, and they can hear bling, 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 bling. So they followed the sound, and it got closer and closer to this area here. It got louder and louder. So they get to this doorway over here, and they most definitely hear bling, bling. So Patty Joe looks back in this corner over here, and she starts walking back. Bling, bling. She gets over here about to this point here. She was telling me the story. She got to about this point here, looks in the corner, and they've since moved stuff. You could see the old computer monitors and stuff back in there. But there used to be the old computers and stuff, and then a box full of phones where she could see the phone on top of the box, and it was lighting up as it rang. And so she was going to go in there and pick up and see if anybody would answer. She got about right here and then realized the end of the phone cord was sticking out of the box. It wasn't even plugged in. She looked back at Patty and she says, this looked like a job for maintenance. So they went ahead and skedaddled out of here. So kind of a funny story. Why was that phone ringing and there was nobody down here? But we still hear to this day. I think the last time we heard it was only like 3-4 months ago. We hear the phone ringing down here. So it still happens. It hasn't gone away. And why? Nobody knows. All right. So here we are in the monk's cafeteria. Great big long room. Lots of space. So here they would have 3 meals a day. They got their props and stuff hid behind these walls for the Halloween, the haunted house. Because they still use this section for a different part of the haunted house. But you come up here, and here's what I think is really odd. And when I was first told this, I thought, that's got to be a story. It can't be true. Because somebody had told me they would keep, you know, during the winter months, back in the day, when the grounds froze 2-3 feet thick, they couldn't bury a body if you died in the winter. That was a nice little thump I just heard. So what they would do is, if you were unfortunate enough to die in the wintertime, is they would go ahead and embalm you and do what they normally did. However, this room here, if you notice, it's got a little pipe up on the ceiling there. And what they would do is hooks on the side of the casket handles, and then they would slide you back into this room. And that's where you would hang out until, and you get that overwhelming smell of formaldehyde when you open this door. Pretty crazy. But you would end up and hang out in this room until a time came that they could bury you in the ground. They could dig in the dirt again. And that was really odd to me, because here you are sitting here having your meal, no matter breakfast, lunch, or dinner, knowing that there's a body right here in this closet. It's pretty creepy, but I guess, it was just part of the monk life. So this doorway here is back to where we were, the confessionals and stuff. And that goes straight back into the kitchen. So we just made a big loop around is all we've done. Now we come back out into this hallway, but now we're right at the potato cellar. So we were at that doorway right there. Go around that corner and back up, and that'll take you up to the stairs. So this is where we're at now. So this is the infamous potato cellar. Do a lot of stuff down here. You guys see me down here probably as much as you do command, especially with Kat constantly sending me down here with her channel points. Her or zombie, either one. These are it was originally the refrigerators. When they first built the building, this is where the refrigerators were. And it was old when it was put in here. The building was built in the 1920s. The refrigerator was built in the 1900s. And so they were old when they installed them. And along about the 1940s, the compressors went out, and they just totally died. They couldn't get them fixed anymore because they were so old. And by that time, they had the other meat locker at the other side of the kitchen, so they didn't really need them. So they just sat here. Along about the 1970s, 2 monks come down here, and they say, seemed like some pretty nice stuff to let it go to waste like here, sitting down here. We could probably do something with this. So they got to thinking. What they ended up doing is making them saunas. So these old refrigerators turned into side-by-side saunas. Pretty cool, huh? That's ingenuity. Okay, now we're in the room with the chair, the infamous chair. Let's go ahead and turn on this light. Turn this light off. And you see my camera right there. And so, do a lot of EVP sessions down here, but really, and that's plastic, by the way, a scorpion. But really, haven't had a whole lot happen in this area here. If you heard Sean when he was here a couple of weeks ago, and I have to agree with him, as creepy as this room is made out to be, a lot of people say, oh, the children were being stuck down here and they were being punished, and it was such a terrible room, and I feel so bad for the kids. And in reality, was not the case. There's no proof of any of that ever happening. And I'll tell you the story about the chair here in a second. But what this room actually was back in the day was, if you look along here, there was a row of sinks. And so when they brought in all the root vegetables in from the field, they would come in through the doorway here, and then they would wash all those vegetables here at the sink, and then store them down in the potato cellar if they were root vegetables or whatever, heads of lettuce, whatever they had. But that's what this was. It was basically to wash their vegetables in. The story behind the chair is Charlie was the maintenance guy, as I mentioned his name earlier. And I also get the story firsthand. He is still alive and comes around every now and then. But what was happening is, during that time where it was shut down and Patty and Patty Joe were here, he was storing a variety of stuff down here, but mostly he was putting the old school stuff, the chairs and desks and stuff like that got in his way wherever he was working. He'd store them down here. The thing was, every time he came down, and this is the exact chair, he'd come down to put something else down here, open up the door, and when he opened up the door, inevitably, the chair would be sitting in the corner like that. And thinking, wow, that's weird. So he'd move the chair back and put it back in where it belonged, wherever he had it, go upstairs. A couple of days later, he'd get ready to come put something down here. And sure enough, that chair would be back in that corner again, saying, what's going on? So he went up and he asked Patty and Patty Joe, you guys downstairs, you messing with my stuff down in that room by the refrigerator? And they say, oh, hell no, we don't go down there unless we absolutely have to. We go down there in a pair, we do whatever we have to do, and we get the heck out. We're not going to hang out and move your stuff around. And you're like, well, somebody's screwing with me. Somebody has to, because every time I go down there, that chair's over in the corner. So what he did was, you could see the duct tape on the floor there. That's actually put down by Charlie. He actually put that down. And if you see, it lines up with the corners, each leg of the chair. So the chair fits in there. He marked that. Then if you look, and by the way, they added this as a toy from the haunted house. It's kind of creepy, but at any rate, if you look around the floors, the edges of the floor here, you see all this white powder here. So what he did was he put the marker down there, put the chair inside the marked area. Then he sprinkled baby powder all over the floors. And then he backed himself out of here. And he had baby powder all the way up to this door. Then he put on this lock and hasp that wasn't there before. Then he went ahead, shut the door, locked it up with a padlock that he had the only key, and he went on vacation for a week or two. Comes back from vacation. He knew that if anybody had gotten in that room, he had the only key, and they would have had to broke the lock to get in. And even if they didn't break the lock, he would see footprints in the powder going to the chair. And then he would have saw that the chair was dragged over to the corner with the baby powder. So he gets back, he opens up the door, unlocks the door, looks, there's no footsteps in the baby powder, looks back at the chair. The chair is indeed in the corner, facing towards the corner again. It was picked up and not drugged, because you could obviously see that there was no drag marks. And you know, again, how do you explain that? So we keep the camera down here. That's the story of the chair room. It's not that they were using this for discipline or anything like that. It was just a strange phenomena that allegedly happened. We've never caught the chair move by itself. It's just a story, and you know, just something fun to share. Again, that little zebra was a toy from the haunted house, and somebody offered it to any kids that want to play with it, but too creepy for me. Maybe that's why they don't come around, because that creepy zebras is down the potato cellar. We're just about done here, guys, pretty quick. Come down here, you see this is where they store all the root type vegetables, any kind of food source like that. And there's shelf after shelf after shelf. So they would wash them up first, and then they would put them into the bags or whatever. And then they'd store it here on these shelves. So I showed you back when I was in the sacristy, the cellar doors. This is where they come in, down in the basement here. So you can see that it's pretty well secured. But if you open up those doors, then you open up the cellar doors from the outside underneath the breezeway, and that's where you would end up. So we got the hospital bed. It was actually a prop. Both these were, the coffin and the bed were propped from the haunted house. The coffin was handmade. It was never actually used other than for a prop. The hospital bed, however, is an actual hospital bed. So God only knows how many people actually died on that mattress and could have been wheeled in here unknowingly when they brought this bed in here. So it's actually more creepy from that standpoint than this coffin. The coffin, like I say, is not real. It was a prop, always has been a prop. All right, now I want to show you this little room that you guys don't typically see. The view you guys generally get to see is off this camera here. So you're kind of getting a look at the area kind of like this perspective here. So you don't realize that this room even exists. Like I say, I said it in the video sometimes, you know, there's another 10, 12 feet behind me, and this is it. So you come through this little room here, and you can see here, this is where I plug in the spirit portal, and I have to shut off or unscrew all these light bulbs. There's 3 of them up the hallway here to be able to turn on the light switch to get power to the portal. So I do that, but there's stories of this wall in particular being a secret passageway to the tunnels that intertwine the underbelly of Mother Earth here at the Holy Cross Abbey. Everybody thinks it's the blocked off tunnel, which is not true. It is actually the steps going up to the walkway, the breezeway alongside the building that makes up the entire length of the potato cellar and ends up in the sacristy down the corridor here. So that's all that is there's no tunnel. As I said, there is no existing tunnel whatsoever, and if anybody tells you that there's tunnels under the monastery, you can call them on their bullshit, because they do not exist. Do not exist. So that's what that is. I guess I'm kind of finished up here now. You guys got to see everything. Always like to check in the coffin, make sure that nobody put a body in there since the last time I was here. And there's no bodies. That's good. We don't want to ever put a body in there. So let's go ahead and head out. It's kind of funny that I've had to hang out and just wait to finish up that little segment. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you get a better idea of what the monastery looks like now. I've taken you into not all the rooms, but all the corridors and all the little nooks and crannies that are of any interest. And now you can see the massive size of this. So you can just imagine what it's like trying to do an investigation here. Again, it's dark in here. Let me shut off my light and you'll see. Yeah, that's what I see, other than looking down at my phone. Pitch dark. Pitch dark. There's nothing down here. So, yeah. We'll head on out. I'll head back to the RV here. Make me up some dinner. So guys, that's it. I'll see you when I see you in the video.